Welcome back. Your time is 3:26. I'm Martin Daubney and this is GB News. Now, later in the show, I'll talk about claims that the European Union could be plunged into an unprecedented political crisis this week. But before that, to the latest now on Donald Trump, and he's going to call for national unity in a major speech that is being rewritten after he was almost assassinated on Saturday. Trump will address the Republican National Convention on Thursday, and he revealed the speech I was going to give on Thursday was going to be a humdinger. Had this not happened, this would have been one of the most incredible speeches. Honestly, it's going to be a whole different speech now. Well, to discuss this, I'm now joined by Erol Morkoc, who's a spokesperson for Republicans overseas, UK. Erol, always a delight to have your company. An astonishing situation, one I think a lot of us still haven't fully processed. Millimetres from death. Donald Trump himself said, "This is a miracle. I'm here now, but for an act of God, I should be dead." So many questions to be asked about the would-be assassin, but can we talk about what seems to be a paradigm shift in the way Donald Trump wants to address the nation? Do you think we could see a less combative, more thoughtful approach from Donald Trump? We know he believes in God. Maybe he thinks this was a wake-up moment. What do you think we can expect?
Well, Donald Trump is a lion of a man, but in this situation, we are going to see somebody who has just had a brush with death, somebody who is millimeters away from being wiped off the face of the map. And because of that, I think his statement that he made about the speech, I really take him at his word. I believe that he was going to go into that convention with much of the similar rhetoric that had been, sort of cataloging the entire campaign on both sides. And now for once, he's going to have a chance to do what Joe Biden couldn't do, and that's lead the American people. He's going to use this speech to reach out to moderates. He's going to use this speech to reach out to Democrats, to reach out to all Americans, because nobody wanted to see President Trump get executed or murdered, unless you're an awful person. And I really don't believe that our Democrat fellow Americans wanted to see him die. So I think this is a chance for Donald Trump to, look at all he's been through, all of the, I don't know if you guys have seen, but they just dropped the classified documents case against him. They said the appointment of Jack Smith was completely unconstitutional. And it's, it stands to reason that the people who are going to be investigating his assassination had to drop their fraudulent claims against him. So it almost seems like all the stars are lining up in more ways than one for President Trump. And he's going to have a chance to really speak to the American people. And I'm so grateful and honored to be able to hear him speak, because a lot of us, haven't had that moment where our side was given a fair shake. And I think everybody's going to be tuning in, and they're going to hear a man who's been through the ringer, who's given up everything, as he should be on a boat in the Mediterranean with his billions of dollars. Instead, he fought for the little guy, and he almost gave his life for it. And I think that's going to play out. Like you mentioned, he's a God-fearing man. He's somebody who believes in luck. But in his interview with the New York Post, he said maybe it wasn't luck, maybe it was God. And I think that's going to play into his speech. He's going to try to unify the nation. He's going to, bring people together in a way that Joe Biden hasn't been able to. Joe Biden's been giving press conferences to basically nobody. I don't know anybody who's actually watching those. They're borderline propaganda. It's the same old, let's all come together. And nobody cares. This is not the way the country's been run. And I think going forward, we're going to see Donald Trump take this mantle and run with it like he's always done. He's the Teflon Don for a reason.
And Erol, a former ambassador to America from the UK, Lord Darroch, he said Trump is looking indestructible politically now. Ronald Reagan had an 8-point bump back in 1981 after that attempted assassination. What effect has this had on the polling on the American electorate?
Well, it's definitely given Trump an edge. Now, I don't want to go and say that the election's in the bag. I think that's premature. I think the Republicans need to be very careful to think that the amount of sympathy that's going on today is going to still continue in 3 months. Keep in mind, this is a country that quickly forgets its news cycle, and the vitriol from the left against Donald Trump, they've already come up with things. It's staged. It was a made up event. There's already fissures happening in the perhaps unity that we saw in the first few days. So I do believe that the advantage he has is real. And I think that any red-blooded American who was undecided now, I mean, I don't imagine anybody could look at these two candidates and see one man who can barely read a teleprompter, another man who can get shot in the head and hop up and yell, fight, fight, fight. They say fight or flight response. Donald Trump's a fighter, and I think the American people are fighters. So I really do think this helps him, but in probably one of the most melancholy ways possible. It's an awful that the situation had to get to this point, and now it's important for Donald Trump to take this moment in time, this historical opportunity, and use it to not galvanize his base, rather, but unify everybody together. And if he does that, if he's able to do and convey that message in this convention, I think there's no question that he wins in a landslide. Maybe not as great as Reagan. I don't know if anybody could win that many states again, just considering how demographics work. But I do think that this bodes well for Donald Trump, but more importantly, it bodes well for America going forward and our allies.
OK, Erol Morkoc, thanks for joining us. We have to leave it there. Always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you.